What's on YouTube? It's PTT back at it with another Division video. Today guys, I want to talk about the implementation of hunters into the wider game and how I would personally see it happening. So let's first pull up my list of where I would implement hunters into the game. Up first we have supply drops. Now when I say supply drops, I'm actually talking about the season pass supply drops that we get every 2 weeks. Number 2, I would obviously implement them into the open world. Number 3, I would implement them into the dark zone. Number 4, into the underground. And number 5, I would of course implement them into incursions. And now that you have seen my overview of hunters in game, let me talk to you about how I would actually go about it. So number 1, supply drops. The way I would introduce hunters into the 2 weekly season pass supply drop is as follows. First, I would increase the number of NPCs around the supply drop. Second, I would take the supply drops on the ground out and make you take out all of the NPCs before the supply drops actually arrive. Then, when the NPCs were all dead, I would have a hunter or 2 turn up and you would have to neutralise them before the timer ran out to successfully get your supply drop. Now, obviously with the increase in difficulties to supply drops, I would also add loot drops from the hunters and I would have the actual supply drop itself have a chance to drop a named piece of gear. Now, the reason I would like to see hunters implemented here is because, let's be honest, supply drops are a little bit of a walk in the park and they kind of feel very underwhelming. To say that they're supposed to be this big special reward from the devs for having bought the season pass. Let's now move on to number 2, the open world. The way I would implement hunters into the open world would be through HVTs. For those of you who don't know what HVTs are, that you have daily and weekly high value targets which you can access through getting intel from the safe rooms. Now I would add another HVT to the list that would cost 100 intel to unlock, and that particular HVT would be 3 to 4 waves of NPCs, followed by a round of 2 to 5 named bosses that could all drop loot. Then I would add a final wave that was 3 hunters, and again they could all drop loot. Now this may sound like a great way to implement hunters and to get a load of loot from the open world activities, but that's not it guys. Finally, I would add in the chance to get a named piece of gear / weapon on completion of that particular HVT mission. Now obviously there are several other ways that hunters could be implemented into the open world, but I'd hate to have all my ideas in one video, so for now let's move on. Number 3, the dark zone. There are several ways in which I can envision hunters being successfully introduced to the dark zone, from roaming groups to stationary areas like named bosses, but by far the best way I can see them being introduced is via supply drops. If there was a named boss and a hunter at all supply drops, then I could see the supply drop fights being far more interesting, and I personally would go for them a lot more just for the battles that would come with them. Now then, number 4, the underground. This is a fairly easy one. Introduce a round where there is a hunter that appears with the final boss. This would, in my opinion, only be available in the hardest mode of the underground, with say at least 3 directives active. Now, the reason I would add them into the underground is, as I said, the hunters are a great new enemy type that encourages a different playstyle and breaks up the current game type that has been the norm since day one. So if we're looking at implementing them in the open world, in the dark zone, and incursions, things like that, why not implement them into the underground as well? Now, finally, let's talk incursions. Incursions are something that have a lot of potential, and I believe that if hunters were introduced to the incursion mode, then they would be far more interesting, even without more mechanics being added to them. Imagine, if you would, just as an example, Falcon Lost. How different would the experience be if the hunters came out with the bomb on the bomb round and you had to defeat one as a team to get the bomb to place on the APC? Again, like I said, this wouldn't solve all of the issues with incursions, but it would be a good start. Now obviously guys, these are only my ideas of how to implement hunters into the wider game, and they are by no means all of my ideas, but they are some of the better and easier ones to implement. Now as always guys, I would love to hear your thoughts, so let me know in the comment section down below how you would like to see hunters introduced to the wider game and what kind of mechanics you can envision in the future that would have the hunters in it. Drop a like on the video if you liked it and found it interesting. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. There are plenty more Division videos coming your way. And as always agents, thank you very much for watching. Until the next video, I'll catch you all soon.